Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 23rd of October 2022, and this week we are going to be talking about whatever we end up talking about. Some weeks we talk about cryptocurrency, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, any other three letters really. All depends upon who the audience is, what they want to talk about, and you can be a member of that audience. We hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. So it's currently on BST, soon be switching to UTC. So winter is approaching in the UK. But everyone is welcome to join, whether you're a novice or an expert. So if you're just beginning in crypto and you want to learn about some of the basic terms, you've got some basic questions you want to ask, then feel free to come and join us. There's a link in the comment section below, and you can join from there. If you're an advanced person or you're running a project and you'd like to talk a little bit about your project, again, come along and chat to us. As long as you're not scamming, phishing, or overhyping something, then you're always welcome. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today.
Hello there.
Hey, Alina. Hello, how are you?
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been lots of thunder and lightning and ice and rain and all sorts earlier on here. Settle down a bit now.
We had a major thunderstorm last week on Wednesday night.
Okay.
Lightning, thunder and lightning. I've never seen it in Ireland before.
Wow, pretty interesting. Hey, and we're joined by Lucy as well. Hey, Lucy.
Hey, Gary, how are you doing? Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment.
Oh, no, that's not good. How's life apart from that, Lucy?
I mean, it's okay at the moment, except for the cold. How's you?
Dear me. Well, there's only a couple of us this evening at the moment. I don't know if everyone's busy watching the thunderstorms and beautiful sunset that followed it or not. But Lucy, is this the first time you've been on one of these calls?
I'm not entirely sure. It's either the first or second.
Okay. Yeah. I feel as though we should be communicating in sign language because it almost sounds painful for you to speak at the moment.
We can always type.
Yeah, that's good. So I'll start the evening by asking Alina for any wonderful questions. Then how about that? So that's always a good opening thing. But Lucy, if at any point you've got any questions or you want to add anything, please join in. It's not a problem. There's no kind of etiquette or anything around here. Everyone's contributions are welcomed. Yeah.
Remember, Gary, we were speaking about your project about digital assets.
Yep.
Why not you tell us more about any other projects that you've been participating? Anything interesting? Anything that you can talk about?
Sure. So the really interesting one that I'm involved in at the moment is around digital estate planning. So this comes back to the whole digital assets and securing your private keys and your seed phrases. Because people don't always realize that, well, when they first get into crypto and they have to get this thing called a wallet, whether it's a software wallet or a hardware wallet or whatever, which is where the keys are stored to give them access to their crypto. One of the things they usually have to do is they create what's called a seed phrase. So this is a random set of 12 or 24 words made up from, I think it's 2048 word dictionary, something, or 3000 word dictionary. Anyway, so they write these down, and that is used by the wallet, that even in the event that they lose the wallet, they can use recovery software to recreate the private keys that run the wallet. So it's very, very useful. But what tends to happen is that people either write these words down on a piece of paper and then lose the piece of paper, or they'll stick it in a safe, somewhere safe or whatever, or they'll just leave it in a drawer, or they'll leave it in a Word document. Or what some people do, and this is definitely not a recommendation, is that they will email it to themselves, but leave it in their draft folders in their email. And they think they're being clever because they think if they don't send it, it's not subject to a hack attack. The problem is a lot of hackers know that crypto people do this. And so if a hacker gets onto your computer, one of the things they'll look at is your draft folders, and they'll see if there's any things that say secret seed phrase, do not share, blah, blah, blah. So the seed phrase is an alternate way of getting your private keys. So it's a way of getting your crypto. So everyone thinks that if you've got your physical wallets, like I've got a HSM device here, everyone thinks that if that's locked away in a safe, then you can't get crypto. That's not true. The seed phrase is absolutely critical at rebuilding things. So one of the projects I'm involved in is about securing the seed phrase in public. So this is a bit weird that usually people write seed phrase down and they hide it somewhere. This is more like, I don't know if you've ever had it where you're creating a new password and it allows you to save a hint for your password.
Mhm.
Okay, well, imagine that you've given out to, say, five people that you trust, a hint to something that in part will reconstruct your private key. So it's not that we've taken your private key and sharded it, so put it into pieces and sent it out to people, which is what some people do. This is effectively, we've got parts of your key split out, and there's a secret passphrase that will allow you to work out each of those five things. You with me on that so far? Yeah, because what that means is that the five people aren't custodians of your key. They're not custodians even part of your key. They're custodians to something that will work out how to find out your key if you need to. So that makes it very, very secure. And in fact, you're even at the point where you could publish that secret publicly. You know, you could put it on the front page of a newspaper as to what the clue is, but without all of the other clues, there's no way of reconstituting it into a key. So that's quite powerful. So you now take that on to a next stage and you say, well, rather than it just going to five people, let's do it where it goes to, say, a lawyer, an escrow agency, a will executor service, something like that, and a couple of your trusted people, so that in the event that you die or you become mentally incapacitated, then the executor of the will, or the person with power of attorney, as it's known, certainly in the UK and a number of other countries, who's still alive, can contact these 4 or 5 people, reconstitute the key, and use that to move your crypto assets into another place for sharing out if you've died, for example. So I'm working on a project to do that, which is really fascinating, because it looks at both how you look after what's called a BIP39 seed phrase if you use Bitcoin as an example, but also how you then put a smart contract on top of all of that to do the automatic disbursement of the funds. Now, linked in with that, I produced a survey a few weeks ago that I sent out through my social media via Twitter and LinkedIn and that, just to understand how do people currently look after the digital assets for the future. And the answer from most people was they don't, because it's typically the people who are into crypto are usually younger and think they're immortal and don't think ahead to things like that. So we'll see where that goes. It was really interesting because it's an anonymous survey. If anyone would like the link, reach out to me and I'll send a link to it. You can fill it in. And it asks some quite in-depth questions about, how many wallets do you have, what types of wallet, whether hardware, software, but we don't collect any personal information, so it's not a hackable type thing. And what I found fascinating is that people are quite happy to share how much they've got in crypto, how much of their total wealth it's worth, but several people won't say what gender they are. So it's quite strange. So we'll see where that goes anyway. So an interesting survey. And see, we've been joined by Aaron. Hey there, Aaron.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Where are you joining us from today, Aaron?
I live in Armenia.
Okay. So somewhere a little bit different then. So that's we had someone on, I think, a few weeks ago from Georgia I was speaking to. And I guess I have to say, Elena, originally from a little bit further north, I guess. Right,
I'm from Belarus originally.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. And we've got George joining us as well, who usually is in Dubai. Let's see where he is today in a moment. Hey, George. Is George going to come off mute? So this is your first time, Aaron, on this. Where did you find out about it?
I just found the meetup event, and I'm just joined to know like what's happening here. I'd be happy to discuss some things, to listen to you.
Great.
Yeah, if things go right, I'm planning to join here regularly, if you don't mind.
Of course. Well, this is open to everybody. We've got novices, experts, everything in between. And as you'll see as well, we have people from around the world. So we've got George who's on. George, are you actually back in Dubai at the moment?
Trying to get to Dubai, but it's okay. It's going to be a long journey today, you know. So plane is 3 hours behind schedule. So.
Are you in the departure lounge at the moment?
Yes, I am. I am in Cyprus, actually.
Okay. So I saw a very nice Emirates A380 go over before, and I thought maybe you were on it.
No. It's the normal. It's much older ones we're using now from here. They tend to go for bigger airports. Cyprus is still a small place.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, we'll go back to Aaron then. You're saying, is it that you're working on a project or something of interest?
I'm a software engineer. I work full time for some company, but I'm very interested in crypto and blockchain. I study a lot and want to like start some project here. That's my wish. I'm just trying to understand like the problems, the pain points, and then some direction or some idea to choose and work on.
Okay, well, it sounds like if you're looking at the pain points, that's the right way to do it, because I've dealt with so many projects where they start off saying, oh, well, I want to use blockchain, and then they try and work out a way of using it as opposed to finding out what the actual business problems are first. So that's really refreshing that you're at least taking that attitude. But there's lots and lots of stuff going on, as George, I'm sure, because he's absolutely in the center of this space. He runs a lot of conferences and events. George, what's new in the crypto and blockchain world? Any particular themes, do you think?
Well, actually, things continue to evolve a lot. We're in the middle of a crypto winter. So that means quite a lot of things are being flushed out of the system. So even fairly large projects have kind of, disappeared or vanished because of many financial reasons, primarily mismanagement and others. So it kind of amplifies when things go wrong, very badly. Some projects, took a few trillions out of the system. But to some extent, I think a crypto winter is good for crypto or blockchain because it forces better quality projects to rise to the occasion and to kind of produce a better value or a better return for the community. So I think overall it is good as a result. The use cases continue to evolve and to be more complex. Complex meaning that now we have blockchains that can have a much higher transaction throughput. So we're starting to mix blockchains with things like smart cities, artificial intelligence, just to name a few. Of course, there's a lot of buzz about Web 3.0 and metaverse, but it's kind of a lot of it is kind of, you can say web-centric, but also blockchain-centric in the sense that people are looking at Web 3.0 as just another use case in which blockchain will play a centric role.
Yeah.
I still think blockchain will play kind of a fairly small role in Web 3.0 because there's so many other things that are as important, although it's not saying that it doesn't play an important role, but the role might be, 5% or 10%. So there's a lot more elements that still need to come to the forefront,
okay,
including things like immersive environments and so on.
And it's interesting, I keep describing blockchain and crypto a little bit like the Californian gold rush, that everyone gets excited by the prices of gold as, you know, gold gets extracted, but not many people actually make money out of that. But the really interesting stuff is that I see blockchain as being the railroads that are being created, the infrastructure upon which everything else is built. And I think
Yes.
that's where you're going to see Web3 in that growing as well.
That is correct. And when we say blockchain, I mean, in reality, there's various layers to blockchain. You know, there's layer 0, which I think we have already plenty of them, probably close to 100 or so that are battling it out. Then the value comes from layer 2 solutions, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's a bit like software. I mean, the operating system is useful, but it's kind of just a starting point. So layer 2 solutions, I don't know, let's say Lightning Network for Bitcoin, DeFi for, you know, blockchain 2.0 and so on.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the subsequent layers are adding, you know, value that is closer to the user use case instead of the technologist use case. So I think that is the important element.
I think you're right on that, and it's interesting. Certainly, you see a growth in a number of these areas. So I just want to say hello to Bernard. See, Bernard's just joined us as well. Hey, Bernard.
Yeah, Mr. Fernando is here as well.
Hey,
He might still be in Dubai, actually.
I was going to say he's probably in the next lounge to you. He's always traveling around places.
No. I met him in Dubai, but he's probably still there.
Oh, he's gone away. He was in Dubai last week when he was on the call. But look, it looks like he's dropped off. But Bernard, can you hear us? Are you staying on mute? Looks like he's staying on mute. Never mind, not a problem. Join in if you want. So, Aaron, I guess it's back to you. Of what particular areas do you think are going to be of interest in terms of using blockchain? Have you found any problems yet that you think you could solve?
So there are many problems actually that blockchain can solve. The problem is whether it's time to solve them, whether the solution will be adopted. So some of them is like a ticketing system, for example, for concert, for everything, and social medias that can and other things as well, yes, and they are all here. The problem is the adoption, yes, when user will start using them. Another thing about blockchain is like to create to make banking accessible to all people that don't have banks, yes, for that micro payments, and for people for whom banks are not available, they can use crypto and use the whole ecosystem, yes, that already there. So so if we just see like what companies there are right now, what they do, we can understand like where the market moving, like what new projects appear. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
But there isn't any specific area that I'm like I have a lot of interest, or I'm taking an action on a specific area.
Okay, it's just interesting to see, because it's certainly what you were describing there. There are a lot of things happening already, particularly with the likes of NFTs, which are kind of on trend at the moment, of either providing them for tracking and tracing goods and services, but also the whole DeFi space is growing. It's interesting saying about providing banking services for the unbanked. So there's a number of projects in Africa that are underway. The likes of, well, BitPays has been going for a while, but you've got things like World Mobile Token, I think it's the one, where they're using airships or masts or whatever to provide a broadcast telecoms network with a banking infrastructure layer or a payments infrastructure layer with it. So there's certainly a big growth in those areas, definitely. And I'm sure if you take a look on the internet, there are many, many others as well. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. This is where having been in this space for about 7 years, I've seen a lot of ideas come and go already. And it really is, it's interesting, as George says, well, we've got this, what they describe as a crypto winter. The reality is the prices of cryptocurrencies is almost irrelevant for building the technologies, unless the companies are using crypto as a way of fundraising. So I saw that in 2017, 2018, where a lot of companies were issuing tokens to raise funds. And obviously if crypto prices go down, they don't raise the funds, that kind of thing. So I think George is right that as the crypto prices come down, that means it's the serious people who are doing real projects that stick around, as opposed to the make money fast type things. I don't know if anyone's got any other views on that they'd like to share. Everyone's staying quiet and listening in on that.
No, I mean, there's different people that are come to crypto for different purposes. Some people come to crypto to get a Lambo or to become rich quick. Other people come to blockchain and crypto just as an innovation technology and trying to create solutions that solve problems. The problem could be, of course, financial, like, for example, microfinance or banking for the unbanked and so on, simply because blockchain has got an affinity towards financial solutions. But with the popularity of NFTs, although NFTs have been around for 5 years, not for 1 year, it kind of came up with CryptoKitties, which crashed the original Ethereum blockchain because it couldn't handle the volume transactions go through. But over the last 1 or 2 years, NFTs have come forward as kind of a renaissance of blockchain by creating a whole multitude of solutions, some identity related, some artistic related. Actually, even if you look at things like luxury goods and fashion, sporting goods, especially high-end sporting goods, have embraced NFTs as a way to kind of be in with the in crowd and at the same time maybe validate some identity for eliminating fake products from their supply chain. So I would say the luxury goods is kind of benefiting a lot from the.
George, you'll probably know about this then. Are you seeing much of a crossover with brands, as you say, luxury goods, and things like the metaverse, where they're all trying to get into the metaverse space? Are they using NFTs to get into that, do you think?
That is correct. So NFTs and immersive environments are, when I say immersive, I mean 3D objects and the equivalent. The biggest problem today probably with the metaverse is going to be, on one side, adoption, and adoption has to do with many reasons. People are not going to walk around with these heavy goggles on their heads because it's not a practical thing. I mean, for an hour, maybe a week or a day on the extreme, but more than that, it's definitely not practical. So the second thing is that the device of choice for the last 10 years has been mobile computers. Now, most metaverse environments that are being deployed today came from the gaming industry, and they require quite heavy graphics, powerful computers, sometimes liquid cooled, sometimes with graphic acceleration cards and heavy memory, which means that people are not going to go back to the desktop just because they want to shop online in an immersive environment. So that really means that I see metaverse as another distribution channel. I see metaverse more as a multiverse rather than a metaverse environment. And I see more metaverse as a mini-verse. What do I mean is there will be many verses, multiverse, being able to go from one to the other, and the verses have to be much more slim so they can actually execute comfortably in a mobile phone in a responsive way. I mean, not an entry-level phone, but at least a medium to high-end phone. And I think as those things mature in terms of user interface, then I think there'll be more adoption of metaverse solutions. So I think before we see, you can call it the Web 3.0, the metaverse, I think we'll probably have to talk about something like Web 2.5, which will be the bridge between the two. So the people that are good at doing Web 2.5 are probably going to make more money and outlive the people that jump directly into Web 3.0.
You don't think we're going to go for Web 5 then, as Jack Dorsey was saying?
No, actually, I've seen it was quite interesting because people jump a release just because it looks good and it feels cool. But I mean, let's first get really Web 3.0 to work. It does not work 100% yet because there's many parts missing. Cybersecurity is terrible, scalability and a few other things. But other than that, I think the concept is important because it's a more decentralized web. Gives more power to the user over their data and the control over the transactions that they have. And it allows content creators. Content creator could be somebody who writes a book, a DJ who does a mix, or somebody who sings a song, or somebody who does a streaming video or whatever. Direct relationship with the communities they're trying to serve instead of going through Facebook, Google, or some equivalent organizations that exist today. So that kind of disintermediation is powerful, but it's not, I don't think Google, Facebook, or the others are going to give up so easily. So that really means that the people that are today saying, oh, I'm going to create the Web 3.0 of Facebook or the Web 3.0 of Google are in for a much tougher fight than they don't understand. So because those solutions are mature, they're fairly well entrenched, and you're not going to be able to compete directly against them. You'll have to compete in a completely different way. However, the powerful thing about NFTs and equivalent is the capability of creating not just lookalike tokens like everybody was doing before, but unique tokens, and those tokens are actually digital assets.
Mm.
The ones that have more community or they have more traction will actually be valuable, and the other ones will just vanish because, and I think we have seen many examples of people paying around enormous amounts of money for something that at the end simply is not worth it. And the best example was the first tweet of Twitter, which was bought for, I think, $1 or $2 million, and the guy could barely get a few $1,000s from the auction. And really, the point that highlights is that if you don't have a community, then who's going to value that NFT as something worth paying for? However, if it has utility, if it has a big community, now we have lots of big communities that exist already. Some are sports centric, like football, cricket, or so on. Others are activity centric, maybe like, I don't know, Formula One or others. So if you have these NFTs around these communities, then they'll be valuable from the ground. Or even people that are in the film or music industry, memorabilia and so on. Those will be quite, if they're well done, they'll be valuable from the beginning because they have followers, they have fans, you can call it, for lack of a better word, where the other ones will simply just disappear. However, I think that the thing that is also key is that the environments that will allow us to view or consume these NFTs are as important as the NFTs themselves. Now, if we look, for example, at something like OpenSea as NFT marketplace, it's like an Amazon. So why don't we put the NFTs in Amazon? It's the same square, useless interface that we have seen for the last 15, 20 years. So the point is, they could have done a much better job at creating a much better experience given the kind of solution that they have done. And this is what we have realized, that today, NFTs that maybe were worth, let's say $1,000, maybe they're worth $10 or $100 now. So only a very small percentage of those will actually have some real value associated with them.
I guess it's interesting as well. You come back to the community aspect, and that's where I think there's another big community that we've not really talked about today, which is the gaming community, because gaming is a total massive world in its own right. You know, whether it's first person, third person, whether it's Half-Life or Second Life, Roblox, Minecraft, there's all sorts of types of games now. I don't know. I think Lucy, I know it's difficult for you to speak at the moment, but it seems cool. Were you into gaming? Is that right? Lucy's struggling with her voice at the moment, but I think the whole yeah, she's admitting to be a giant nerd. So I remember when we first met, and she admitted that she was heavily into the gaming side of things, and she's an ultimate uber geek in terms. But the whole gaming community is massive, and the opportunity there of linking in gaming, metaverse, VR, AR. I think there's a whole massive potential there, which we haven't quite got right. And you know, George, I think, got the point that, you know, people are talking about going head to head with the likes of Facebook and Google. That's just not going to happen because they've put too much into this already. And I know Facebook, or Meta as it's known now, or Mark Zuckerberg was talking about their VR solution and their metaverse a few weeks ago, which got absolutely panned because of how relatively poor the experience was for people. So yeah, I think we've got a lot to learn yet.
Well, I think to some extent that applies also to Facebook. I mean, Facebook has been trying to get the metaverse right, and I think their first experiences at the metaverse have been below par. And the reason why they've been below par is the companies that have been in gaming have one step ahead of everybody in the metaverse world, which means they've been doing equivalent immersive environments for playing games. So for them, the metaverse is kind of a natural evolution. So it's like where gaming is an immersive environment. Now metaverse becomes an immersive environment in which you can do e-commerce and other activities. So it's a repurposing of something they've already done before. So they are not starting from scratch, where somebody like Facebook, which has not played in the same leagues in multi 3D environments, has to relearn that process from scratch,
or acquire somebody.
And that's the way they're going to play it, and because they have plenty of cash, so they will. And that applies, by the way, not just to the environments that you're developing, but to the devices that you actually use to interact with those environments. So things like the Oculus and others are going to be become more niche as we proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we will see a new generation of devices, probably closer to what Google Glasses was before, and maybe what Apple Glasses will look like, although nobody has really seen what it looks like, but it'll be more of augmented reality, mixed reality experience. So that means, I mean, it'll be nice to have a device where you point at something and it kind of augments what it is by providing additional information about it, so you can continue about doing your day-to-day job. Now, whether that happens to be for e-commerce or it is in a manufacturing environment, it is in a customer service environment. I mean, not even, I mean, I spent 6 years almost as a CTO in Huawei. And one of the things that was deployed in China was a kind of a version of Google Glasses for police, in the sense that the police, when they're looking at individuals walking down the street or in a stadium or in a heavy crowded environment, these glasses of augmented reality interact with a cloud data center to identify who's actually individuals they're looking at, and whether those individuals should have further investigation about who they are. And the technology has proven itself of, for example, being able to point out somebody that had been going from the police for 2 or 3 years, but they were able to catch him in a stadium of 30 or 40,000 people. So that
Yep.
means, you know, the glasses have proven themselves as interesting, although nobody called it metaverse at that
Mhm.
time, but it's more of a mixed reality, augmented reality glasses. And I think the metaverse will probably play along those sides as the technology evolves.
I think you're right, because it's interesting. I think it was 2016. I was checking out Google Glass for consumer. And even then, it had the ability, you know, they didn't look much different from my glasses now, but you could look around and it would identify, at the time, it was identifying buildings. So buildings are a lot easier. But it was identifying what a building was, who owned the building, that kind of thing. And I know that Facebook and Google were doing a lot of work on facial recognition, as you say, but I think they actually deactivated it from being able to do facial recognition with the default Google Glass because of the privacy issues. But you're right, China was certainly doing this kind of thing a while ago. And I think they've been several years ahead of the curve for quite some time. But I don't know, we've got Fernando's joined us, so maybe Fernando's got a view on who's the leader now with facial recognition and linking it in with the metaverse.
Hi guys, I don't know, to be honest, you know,
Uh,
there's some people doing some cool stuff, but whatever you're gonna guess, you never know what the big tech is doing, you know, really the big players, you know, when they run these on stealth, eventually they announce something, you know, but I'm pretty sure, and George probably knows more about this than me, that Huawei has some big tech on that, you know. The usual players are producing all of that stuff at the moment, you know.
my usual experience is that there are those who are talking about it and there are those who are doing it, and they're not usually the same people. So it's quite often the companies who aren't talking about what they're doing are the ones doing the interesting stuff. So that's an interesting thing. So come back to Aaron, really, in terms of, you know, blockchain and opportunities. I think there's so much that you could be looking at, either whether it is using blockchain or tokens or whatever. But I think it's good, coming back to your original point about finding out what the business problem is, because I know Elena's been looking for quite a while around the blockchain space and where the opportunities are and what companies are doing. And I'm not sure many of them have moved on that much. But Elena, have you managed to dig into any projects that you think are of interest now?
No, I haven't listened.
Okay.
Well, not on what you just said, Gary. I had a similar conversation about what you said just now, quite recently. People always focus on what's the problem you're trying to solve. Yeah, that question that comes, and I say not everything is about trying to solve a problem. You know, people create games; they're not solving any problems.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. You know, there's so many things that go behind solving problems. Yeah, and people think in blockchain everything has to be about solving problems, and they are wrong, absolutely wrong. Yeah.
So I carry two views on this. So I think I'm bipolar or able to have to. But having spent many years working in IT, of encouraging people to always look at what problem is and then work out how to apply the technology. I get that view, but I also get the other view of nobody has got a business case for why they needed Twitter when Twitter was invented. You know, no one came along and said, oh, there's a problem. We've got this problem and I need to write about 140 characters and send it out to loads of people. So you're right that there are some things that we don't have a problem for, but it's just someone's got some niche technology. But I still think that
applies to TikTok. Applies to TikTok, applies to Instagram.
Yeah.
There was no business problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And I think maybe that's the thing, that if you are a new platform who's coming up with a truly innovative, groundbreaking, you are creating a market, then absolutely. It's like Airbnb. You know, nobody originally came along and said, I've got this problem that my house is available and I'd like to rent it out. Airbnb looked at an existing business model and decided to totally restructure it. So I agree that if you're doing a platform play of something completely new and totally disruptive, then yes, you don't need to identify the problem. You go and create an industry kind of thing.
Absolutely, like VR headsets. I mean, why would you need it? Why would they create it? To solve what problem? That we are living in the real world and we need to transcend, you know?
Well,
I mean, there's so many tech that is created. It's like you said, you know, you find your space, you attract people, say, hey, this is good, this is new, this is cool, and you create your own vision around that. So yeah,
VR, well, VR is solving the problem of how to make Zoom calls more interesting, because
yeah,
they're boring otherwise. But yeah, that's a fair point. Let's switch tack a little bit. I'm conscious that you've got blockchain and crypto are inextricably weaved into each other, and as George was saying before, I hate the phrase crypto winter because it's always summer somewhere in the world, and I always think crypto is doing well somewhere. And I know just before I came onto this call, I noticed Bitcoin's leapt up by, I think went up about $200 in the last hour. I don't know if anyone knows anything that's happening in the crypto world at the moment that is causing any excitement or anything, or is this just normal crypto behavior? So I saw an interesting comment in one of the UK newspapers the other day that was pointing out that the British pound is nearly as unstable as Bitcoin. And I put it out there the other way around. That means Bitcoin is nearly as stable as the British pound, which is quite an achievement. I don't know, has anyone heard any other interesting news that they'd like to share, apart from the Ripple court case, that is?
May I ask some question? Why we have to worry? Why do we have to worry all the time about what's the price of the crypto? Yes, because it is not going to be stabilized for several years. Yes, because it's like there are many people like trading crypto, and then based on that, it's there's gonna be highs and lows. Yes. So why should we worry about that? Like, can we
I absolutely agree. I think if you're involved in the technology that underpins these things, and you're looking at implementing solutions that, as you were saying before, you know, provides payment schemes and all this kind of thing, then actually the price of Bitcoin does not matter. It's froth. But what you do find is that the interest in blockchain, it tends to be spurred on by initially the interest in crypto, which tends to be spurred on by the prices going up and down and everything. That's just the nature of it. My experience is that most people who have ended up learning about blockchain have done so because, first of all, they heard about Bitcoin, then they learned from Bitcoin about what crypto is, then they learn from crypto what a blockchain is. But I agree. I've always been an advocate that prices don't actually matter. It's the technology underpinning it. So a good point, Owen.
The other side of the coin, yeah. You understand what I've done there? The other side of the coin is that people don't need to know about blockchain and the technology that's underneath. Yeah, needs to know is about whatever app you're producing and how cool it is, or solves a problem for them or whatever. But on top of this, you always have actually the value of that the coin or the crypto that they've created. You know, so we can that will never go away, because a lot of the things that are happening around whatever token you create, and let's forget about what the regulations are going to be in the future. You know, there's going to be a lot of changes around that. There's always that economic factor. You know, what is the impact that the token that you have listed on some exchange has on everything that you're doing? And for the user, it doesn't really matter, but it is psychological as well. If you're going to create a token that has a limited supply of 1,000 tokens, the value of the token is probably going to be at some point 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Yeah, and then a user says, oh, you need to have this token to actually access that platform. Yeah, the actual price of the token is very psychological. You know, a lot of people don't understand the tokenomics part of it. Yeah,
Hmm.
It is the total supply, and then the variation in cost. And if a token costs 10 cents, psychologically, a user thinks that is cheap, you know. But if a token costs $3, they start to think that is expensive, although it might cost you only 10 cents to access some feature on the other platform. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we can't forget from the economical side. That's why it is important around Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever. Might not be so important, but around any other tokens that platform has and they have a utility on the platform, it's quite psychological, the price, you know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. With having a few new people on call today, just wanted to open it up again. Does anyone have any other questions they'd like to ask? Let's make sure we get those covered off. Well, Lucy, are you able to squeak out anything at the moment? Lucy's staying quiet. I'm guessing, Bernard, you managed to find the mute switch yet? Bernard's staying quiet as well. Go on then, JT, tell me what else is happening then if everyone else is staying quiet. Anything in the market?
You just saw a post that I posted in one of the groups about Craig Wright. No, he lost the court.
How did that go? Was that the Norwegian court case?
No, it was Swedish or whatever it was. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he lost it.
This was where it was proved that he wasn't being defamed by being called
A fraud. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. It looks like he's losing almost every court action, you know. So.
Yeah. For those who are on the call who don't know who Craig Wright is, he's the person who's behind. There's an alternative Bitcoin platform, which is BSV, which is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, and Craig Wright is behind that. Craig has at times claimed to be the original Satoshi Nakamoto, so the inventor of Bitcoin, and he has been involved in a series of litigation and court cases with varying degrees of success. I think he won a case in the UK simply through the default that the other person didn't show up. So I think he won that case. But yeah, he's recently been going through a case in Norway, which I don't know, Fernando, you want to share any other details or anything beyond that he didn't win?
I didn't follow much on the court case, but it was just the guy putting these, either Swedish or Norwegian guy, I can't remember, in court and for defamation. That's all. I have no time for that guy.
Again, it kind of comes back to Aaron's point really about prices and this kind of thing. These kind of things are a distraction in a way, but they do generate press, they do generate publicity, and they do develop awareness. Unfortunately, in the case of some crypto celebrities, shall we say, that they generate adverse publicity, which is not good. But that is something that the press seem to like. So it's very rare that a newspaper will publish a story about something that is good. That they love publishing stories about tragedy, death, losses, this kind of thing. So anything that is bad in the crypto world, they like to promote it.
Yeah.
And so any court cases that says, oh, you know, the original creator of Bitcoin has been in calls, blah, blah, blah. As much as it's just noise and it doesn't actually benefit the blockchain community or the crypto community, at least it builds awareness and gets some headlines out there.
Yeah, there was another one quite recently, wasn't it? BSV was captured by a single miner, wasn't it? I think 80% of it, mining, 80%, if I'm not mistaken, 80% of the mining hash rate was taken control by one miner, you know? Did you see that or no?
I did. So again, for those who may not be aware of how some Bitcoin-like platforms operate, where you've got miners mining the cryptocurrency of that particular blockchain, you carry a risk of what's known as a 51% attack, which is if somebody or an organization can take control of more than 51% of the compute processing power, or hashing as we tend to call it, that then gives them the potential ability to start manipulating how that blockchain operates. And so most blockchains avoid this by being distributed and all the power compute being spread out. But with BSV, which is the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, there was a point at which I think it was just one node or one group of nodes had more than 51% of the hashing power. Last week, I think it was sometime, which is not a good sign. Yeah. And in fact, JT just shared a link, which I'll try and put up on here.
I personally think it's like telling that there might be an earthquake, yes, and then the whole city will be destroyed. Like there are a lot of money on that, and like if it's about a big chain like Ethereum or some other big chain, yes, if that attack happens, like everything is gonna lost, yes, forever. So
yeah, you're right, and that's at least the thing about BSV. It is still a relatively small chain with limited use. And I think for a while it was even revealed that its major use was for transferring and holding weather data or something. So it had limited value, as you say, as compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, kind of quite limited on that. So yeah, good point.
I think one thing is probably worthwhile mentioning, with the exception maybe of Bitcoin and Ethereum, most of the other chains, without naming names, are limited to a few nodes. And even if there's more than a few nodes, they tend to be controlled by one or more individuals. And that applies even to one of the more popular chains like Binance Smart Chain. I mean, Binance Smart Chain is controlled by one single company. Now, at one point in time, 55% of Bitcoin nodes were located in China, which technically means that China could have controlled the Bitcoin network if they really wanted to. But since then, this is no longer the case, where I think China is down to about 20 or 25% of the overall Bitcoin nodes. But most of the blockchains today, the nodes are simply cloud nodes, which means they're instances of software running in some Amazon, which is nothing to do with blockchain, is a pure cloud network environment, which means that they're extremely sensitive to the control of those cloud environments and to any kind of hack. So being able to control a lot of these chains is much more simple than actually it appears to be, which means that when we tend to use the word decentralized and blockchain in a very loose way, I think we have to come to grips that most blockchainers are actually rather centralized than being decentralized. Yes, they have some degree of decentralization, but their degree of decentralization is very modest at best. And it's always a performance versus value, if you want. So the more decentralized you are, the less performant you're going to be. I mean, it's just a fact of computing. Decentralized databases have been with us for a long time, where you do replication across nodes. So the more nodes you have, the more slow this database will be. Now, the more centralized it is, the higher performance. That's why things that we refer to as blockchains, but in some cases may not be kind of 100% of blockchain, like Ripple and others, are very heavily centralized. That's why they can perform tens or hundreds of, or up to 1 million of transactions per second. But this kind of performance is important in the blockchain world if you're, for certain types of applications, whether those applications happen to be payment networks, or those applications happen to be, for example, I don't know, let's say smart city or artificial intelligence controlled mechanisms. So where 1 million transactions per second is not such a big number after all.
I guess that's where the likes of platforms like IOTA, which is strictly speaking not a blockchain, but it's blockchain-like. It uses Tangle, so it's using an acrylic grid type approach, which makes it much faster. I think Radix is doing the same, which is a high performance platform as well. This is where it's
DAGs, yeah.
interesting.
You mentioned DAGs, yeah?
Which, sorry, DAGs. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is where I find it interesting that you'll see DAGs used in the same terminology as blockchains because they're kind of similar enough, even though strictly speaking they are different. But they address some of the performance issues that George mentions. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things, and I'm still looking at it. I don't know if you guys are aware that on Monday, this last week, Bitcoin failed to produce a block for about 85 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. There was about 13,000 transactions that got stuck on Monday. Yep. So I'm trying to dive because I didn't have time. I was in Dubai, I was traveling, but I'm gonna the next few days try to find what happened. But it's quite significant when these type of things happen,
But it's not. I was reading an article on that. The thing about the Bitcoin,
it's a difficulty adjustment. Yeah.
Okay. But the difficulty adjustment, for those who don't know, Bitcoin, roughly speaking, every 10 minutes a block is mined. And there's a difficulty adjustment, which is built into the algorithm. That means if a lot of compute power is being applied and it's taking less than 10 minutes to solve the puzzle, then the complexity is made harder, so it all balances out. But the balancing algorithm, I think, looks at performance over the last 24 hours. So it doesn't instantly say, oh, the last block took an hour, so I have to make it harder straight away. I believe it takes a while before it adjusts back. So occasionally you will get this thing where a block will be solved in minutes, and other times it'll be in 10 minutes, and other times it'll be in an hour. And it's just like averages out that usually it's around about the 10-minute mark.
Yeah, I was put in the context of what you said because previously, but because actually it is not abnormal, I think it's every 35 days, every 30, I can't remember the exact, but around that, around the time you expect to have something happens on a block, and that's without like 80 minutes, 85 without the block being produced. So every 35 days, if I'm not wrong, 34 days. So it's not that abnormal. I was trying to put in context on the speed, on the blockchains, what is expected. And with the blockchain, like Bitcoin, which is totally decentralized and distributed. I mean, can you imagine on a industrial scenario where lots of things depend on a blockchain and is there 85 minutes without producing a block?
Yeah,
it would never happen, So I'll just put it to that context.
Yeah, I'll go with that. And it's kind of a nice one to close off on, really, that because we're out of time. So timing is an interesting point to introduce there. But you're right. It's certainly why you're not going to be able to use a basic blockchain for a lot of things. I'll have to call the meeting to an end, I'm afraid. We're out of time for today. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. George, I hope the flight goes well and safe journeys from Cyprus. Fernando, wherever you are in the planet, I presume you're back from Dubai, be safe. Elena,
no, I'm back in London.
We'll see again. Aaron, thank you for joining us. Bernard, even though you were quiet, thank you. Lucy, it'd be great when your voice recovers to have you chatting a bit more, because you can really help us with gaming insight, because I know you're a bit of a rock star in that space. Nice speaking to everyone. Thanks for joining us. Speak to you all again. Bye for now.
Thank you.